My name is Andrew Barber Starkey, and I'm the founder and creator of the ProCoach Success System, which is a coaching program for self-employed business owners who want to perform at a higher level. I think that for me, when you talk about a soul purpose, it's something that comes from the soul. So it speaks to you if you can slow down long enough to listen to it, and it guides you. And when you're not in alignment with it, if you're doing activities or spending your time in anything that's not aligned with it, then you suffer. If you're paying attention, you're paying a price for not following your soul's purpose. And if you are following your soul's purpose, there's an energy and a joy and a flow that tends to unfold. Not that life becomes perfect, but it does flow. You know, I used to be in corporate sales for many years, and early 90s I was laid off and I was looking for what I was going to do next. And I was really struggling because I didn't want to go back into sales. It just didn't feel like it nurtured me. And I met a woman. She said, "Well, you need to know your purpose." I said, "Okay." So we sat down and she helped. We spent actually an entire day. And she's an art therapist. After we did this whole process, she had me painted. It was really a phenomenal process. And I got crystal clear that my purpose is to empower people to reach more of their full potential. And actually, right over here on the wall, you see that painting? That is the painting I did with her. And it says, my purpose is to help people discover, and I think it's discover and empower themselves to reach more of their own potential. And I started living that. Life's never been the same since. It's amazing. I personally think that all that stuff's made up. In other words, say, do we have a soul purpose or don't we? Yes to both. I personally have found that I have been able to connect with something that feels like a soul purpose to me. That I've guided many people through the process of identifying their soul purpose, maybe 50 to 100 people one-on-one, and then larger numbers in groups. And they all seem to be able to get a sense of, I have some soul purpose. But a person who isn't finding a soul purpose from themselves, I don't think there's anything wrong. It's just they're not connecting with it at the moment. So it's like language. We make up a word and then we say, for example, here we are on a property, right? We say, well, there's property boundaries. We just made that up, right? And why do we do that? Because it works. It creates a structure that is effective. So for me, a soul purpose, do you have to have one? No. But I've personally found it a useful tool, and I've been able to find that for myself. As I mentioned, I worked with this woman who was an art therapist and an MBA, which was an interesting combination and on its own right. And it was really about identifying my values, taking a look at that, looking at what inspires me. And you know, I think for me, and this would be a tip for anybody who's looking for their soul purpose, I came up with this little exercise that evolved from what she did with me to say, imagine you weren't born. So just close your eyes, pretend you're out there in space floating around, and this voice comes to you, and you're like nothing, and you hear this voice, and you know that this is the big voice, whatever the big voice is to you. And the voice says, so, I hear you want to go to planet Earth. Why would I send you there? What will you do? What contribution will you make? And you go, And it comes up inside, and you go, here's what I'm going to do. And so that's the process I've found most useful for getting clear. Yeah, I'm going to come here to make a difference, and a very specific kind of difference, because everybody's purpose is a little bit different. And the purpose for me is empowering others, and that's what comes up when I do that exercise. For me, I know I'm living my purpose partly because I know what my purpose is, and I can check in with it. I mean, I've got it written down on a piece of paper, say, here's what my life purpose is, and then I can feel, yeah, am I doing that or am I not? So that's one way. But I think there's also just, you know, I work with a lot of small business owners, and if there's not a passion, if there's not a deep sense of connection with the work that they're doing and what they're up to, then it's really hard to be successful as a business owner, because owning a business is tough. Running a business is tough. So to me, one of the reasons I know that I'm living my life purpose is I wake up every day with energy to spare, and I can't wait to get out and empower small business owners to have better, more successful businesses. So there's an energy and a satisfaction, a fulfillment when I work with a client and they create a breakthrough, and it's like, that's better than anything. By the way, there's many ways I think I could do my life purpose. Like I work with small business owners. I could be working at a school in Africa. I could, even be working in a corporation. But I can still empower people to reach more of their own potential. And in doing that, I'll experience the joy and fulfillment of doing my life purpose. And when I do it in the right environment that also nurtures me, that meets my lifestyle preferences as well as gets to do my purpose, that's when the real magic happens. I'm going to answer that question two different ways. In some ways, people living their sole purpose can lead to financial disaster if they get attached to doing it in a certain way. And I've been around coaching since 1993. When I announced that I was a coach, I'd never heard of it before. I thought I invented the whole profession. And since that time, so many coaches have come along, and many of them are life coaches. They want to help people be more successful and so on. But they're so committed to doing a certain way that their income, their lifestyle suffers. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing, but it can be financially disastrous if you're committed to something. And I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not sure how long this interview is, but I teach life purpose and teach it to our clients. And so one day I was working on a workbook and developing a seminar for life purpose. And I'm in my office working away, and the doorbell rang. And it's the mailman. And he's got this package for me, and I go down there and I see this guy in his mail outfit, and I go, hey, what's this guy doing? It's not doing his life purpose, obviously, right? And so I said to him, why are you a mailman? What's this about? And he goes, well, it's because, it keeps me fit, and I, get a pension and my income, and, it's good. I said, but is that all? Isn't there more to life than that? And he goes, well, he says, if I really work hard on my mail run, I can finish by 1:30. And I went, so? And he goes, then I get to play with my trains. And it was crystal clear that he'd figured out that he couldn't make a living playing and designing. Like, he made these steam engines, these mini steam engines on a lathe, and he had like all this equipment. That was his passion. That was his purpose, was to bring these things into the world. And he couldn't do it and make a living. And so he had this job that allowed him to get a pension and an income and take care of all of that side. And then it gave him enough flexibility to do what he loved to do and to express himself fully. So you don't have to starve to death to do your life purpose. And simultaneously, if you're the right person and you can really step into and embrace and market your life purpose, you can find a market for it, you can make, I think the people that make the most money in the world are doing what they're passionate about and what their life purpose is, a Donald Trump or a Richard Branson or something. So income and life purpose aren't tied together, but you have to be strategically aware if earning money is important to you. Well, the thing is, for me, and this was, it was almost by mistake. So after I discovered what my life purpose was, to empower others to reach more of their full potential, it's actually to awaken and empower others to reach more of their full potential, then this woman said to me, okay, now you know what your purpose is. What are you going to do with it? And I just went into analysis paralysis. I didn't know. She said, okay, you got a week. And I was in hell. And I was just like, I couldn't sleep. I felt all this pressure to decide what I was going to do. I had no idea. Like I said, coaching didn't exist. It wasn't like I'd heard of it before. And so anyway, again, another story apparently. The phone rang about, like, it was, I think, 2 days before I was going back to this woman to declare to her that I didn't know what the heck I was going to do with it. And phone rang, and it was a friend of mine, and she's a suicide counselor. And she goes, Andrew, I've got a client here I'm talking to, and she's a realtor, and she's interested in taking some Brian Tracy courses. Do you know about, Brian Tracy stuff? You've worked with him, right? And I went, yeah. And she said, would you talk to her? I said, sure. Now, this woman's obviously suicidal, or she wouldn't be seeing my friend, right? And so anyway, we had this conversation in probably 15 minutes. She was crystal clear about what she's up to, what her plan was, how she was going to move forward, and she was committed to action. And I hung up the phone, and I went, yes, that's what I want to do. And by the time my friend phoned back and said, what did you do with my client? I'd already written up this little business card that said Andrew Barber Starkey, Business and Personal Coaching. And so my decision was I was going to do that. That's the good news. The bad news is, and I would recommend this, I'd say this to anybody who's thinking of starting a career in what they're passionate about, I would not recommend that you invent a new industry. Because I starved to death for 6 years. But the commitment, it wasn't even a commitment. It's like you said, what's the decision I made? It wasn't a decision. I just had no choice. I felt completely called to it. I had about 150,000 RSPs. By the time I started making money, I was down to about 30,000. And it was almost all gone. And I was going, this is getting dangerous. But I couldn't stop. And then it's just started to slowly turn around. And now I make a really great income. But it was a long journey. So the decision was, like I said, it wasn't even a decision. It was just there's no choice. I have to do this. And then it was about how to make that work and put in the effort and the strategy necessary to make a living from it. One thing about inventing a new profession is that most people don't have a clue what you're doing. So they didn't understand it. I've always been surrounded by people who are very supportive of me and my authenticity, and I'm very much involved in that personal development industries and so on. So I certainly never had anybody get down on me. Maybe if they'd seen my financial situation, they might have had some more questions, but they didn't. And I was single at the time, so I kind of got away with doing what I want when I wanted, the way I wanted, and there wasn't negative feedback, and people thought it was great what I did, and a lot of people came and had sessions with me and never became clients, and took advantage of what I had to offer and my skills, but really I wasn't affected by my external environment negatively, for sure. Now, on the other hand, if I was married as I am now, at that time, I would have probably never been able to do what I did. Well, I think one of the hardest parts is to balance the idealism of doing what you're passionate about and your life purpose is with a pragmatic element of living in a city like Vancouver, where, I mean, it takes a lot of work to generate enough money to live in a city like this and own a home and so on. So sometimes compromises have to be made. And if one's too idealistic, and I find many people that get smitten with the life purpose thing, they're just not willing to compromise in any way. And my experience is if you hold on to your life purpose and commit to bring it to fruition, and then just follow the path that takes you there and don't insist on getting it all right away. It's kind of childish to jump up and down and go, I want to have this, I want to have this. And a big price can get paid financially and in lifestyle and relationships and everything if you're too insistent on getting it right away. So be patient and allow your course to just flow along towards living your life purpose fully, rather than insisting on having it from day one. That will probably lead to a more smoother journey, even if you have to suck it up a little and do things you don't want. When I was struggling and not earning an income so I earned nothing for a couple of years, and my income, I burned up all my savings. Then I had to start earning income. I ended up teaching corporate training for TELUS, which is not, I never liked the corporate environment, but it was very lucrative. And I was asked if I wanted to design a sales training course for a company, because I'd been successful in sales. It wasn't my life purpose, but I managed to fit my life purpose into the sales training and make a lot of money at it at the same time too. I'm just the kind of person that doesn't quit, which is a mixed blessing, right? But, being true to any ideology, whether it be your life purpose or, a religious or anything, it always brings a lot of challenges, and there's always somebody trying to pull you off the path, or ostracize you for not being the way they want. They don't like it or whatever. So I think, for me, I just never allowed that stuff to stop me. I was committed to creating what I created. I knew, quite frankly, there was nothing else I could do. I didn't see another job that could in any way satisfy or that I could even succeed at. So I really worked hard, and there were down times for sure, and that's where friends and support really does come in, and patience, really trusting that you're on the right path. And the biggest thing is, as you create something in a new realm, you have to face your fears over and over again, and just the thing I'll say about fear, it's the only thing in the world that gets smaller when you move towards it. Right? Fear is actually completely in your mind, and when you go and do something, there's no time for fear. You're just dealing with doing it. Right? To be highly successful in life, there's a reason that only a small percentage of people are highly successful. It takes a certain kind of person, and what I've learned along my way is that it's a journey. It's a transformational journey. I never in a million years would have guessed that I would be where I am now, doing what I do, earning the money I earn, living in the home I live with, having the family I have, and making such a difference in so many people's lives. If you would have asked me 30 years ago, it would have seemed like that would be like flying on my own, that far out of the realm. Well, I think probably the biggest thing for me is that when I worked in the corporate world, I just never liked corporate politics, and I worked for Xerox. I sold photocopiers, and with due apologies to Xerox, nobody needs a new photocopier. Very, very rarely. We were selling them copiers because their lease expired, and we had some fancy new gadget, not because they needed it, and it wasn't satisfying. So the politics, and when you have a job instead of a passion or a purpose, it's just a lot harder to deal with the crap, and there seems to be a lot more of it. When you're committed to something, when you've got a purpose, it's like, okay, so let's say you've got a kid, and they're lost out in the woods, and it's dark and it's raining. Do you give a crap about that? No, you're going to find your kid. The rain nothing bothers you. You're just going for it because you have a commitment to it. And the same is true with a life purpose. When you're committed to your life purpose, the stuff that would really stop you and annoy you and upset you and hold you back in a job, you just move through that if and when you're connected with your purpose. That's the cool thing about a purpose, is it calls you forth to be a whole different kind of person than you would be if you were just wandering along doing your own thing. Well, now that I'm not selling photocopiers, there's a lot of people that could have had really good photocopiers that don't have them. So that is an unfortunate blow to the economy. But, I've coached one-on-one way over 5,000 people. And the results that they've achieved in their lives, one client comes to mind, hundreds and hundreds, one client comes to mind. He was a draftsman. He was overweight. And, he got this idea he wanted to be into fitness. So actually the doctors were telling me he was going to have operations, have to have operations because he was overweight and all this stuff. So he started getting into fitness, and he came to me as a coach and said, I want to get into the fitness business. I said, you know anything about it? And he goes, no, not really. He says, but I want to own a gym. So anyway, fast forward from that, which was in 2000, to today. So what he went through, because he had this purpose and passion for his business, what he went through to get from here, from where he was to here, is unbelievable. But he now has a gym that he basically borrowed all the money from friends and family to build this thing, built a gym that cost him, I think, almost $1 million to build, opened the thing. He's got 900 members. He was the Citizen of the Year in Sylvan Lake, Alberta, where he lives. the gym's now worth $3.5 million. I mean, you know, he still doesn't make a lot of income running the gym, but in terms of the growth of his net worth and so on, he's doing really well. Now he got totally into fitness. He started doing triathlons. Now he's been on the Canadian triathlon team. He does Ultraman's, which is a double triathlon, and he's having a great life. He's got, you know, his wife and him have a kid. It's like everything's fantastic, and he's just one example of hundreds. I have made such a difference between my one-on-one coaching and our members using the program, our coaching system. It's just, I mean, I'm grateful every day for the opportunity and the gifts I've had that it can help these people. And there's thousands of them. It's fantastic. One thing about the soul purpose, from my point of view, is I don't think you can force it. It's not a decision that you make. It's not something you look through a book and decide. It calls to you. So the first thing is, I'd say, listen. And if it's not coming to you, then one of two things. Either you're not listening hard enough, so you need to slow down, you need to get more time in nature, meditate, work out, you know, get yourself into your physical body, get out of your head a little bit, and really nurture yourself so that it'll start to come forth. Because when we're in survival, you know, it's not talking to us very much, it's surviving. So that's one side of it. And the other side is just to be patient. That there's a time, and when the time is right for you to know your life purpose, it'll come to you. And so, I don't know, I probably spent 2 or 3 years wandering around aimlessly, wondering what the heck I was going to do. It was painful as hell. But there was no way I would have found my life purpose if I would have even met with that woman at that time frame. I just needed to get to a new place of being before I was ready to listen to and hear what my purpose was. Lighten up on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. You know, I mean, I've been involved in personal growth for 25 years, and every course, and now of course that's what I do for our clients, is through their businesses they grow as people. And the single thing that we're all striving for, if you want to have a fulfilling, rich experience of life, is you need to love yourself and accept yourself. And so if you're looking for your life purpose and not finding it, and you're getting down on yourself, you're actually doing more harm than good. So just trust. Have faith that your life is going to unfold as it's meant to. Follow your own inner guidance, and it'll unfold perfectly. Try to force something to happen before it's time. You'll get what you may think is your life purpose, and then sounds good, looks good. You know, it may not nurture you and fulfill you the way it could if you really listened carefully.